Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Monday Night Live. I'm Tanja from Tanja Kraus Horsemanship, and we're tuning in tonight to look at the Equine Athlete and the things that I would look at first when it comes to taking him to the next level. So I'm going to hang around for a minute and just wait for everyone to start logging on and stuff like that. So once you're here, go ahead and let me know that you're here by writing a comment or clicking one of the icons, and that'll let me know that you're here and you're watching, and we can get started. And while you're waiting for everyone to start logging in and waiting for the actual show to start, please feel free to invite your friends. I think you've got a little invite button there or a share button there. So for anyone that you think might be interested in this Monday Night Live, we definitely want to invite as many people as we can. So please feel free to do that. And I'm looking forward to talking about tonight's topic. We're in the middle of a 10-day course at the moment. Hey Kathy, how you going? Today's the middle of the course, so five days in, we're in. So I know a few of the guys over at the showground. I've raced home. As you can see, I'm in my work gear. It's been pretty cold here the last few days. We've had frost for the last few mornings, so everyone's having a great time. Bit chilly in the evenings, but they're all sitting around the campfire over there at the moment, waiting for me to get back. Hey Canada, how are you? Hey Fee, thanks for joining. So yeah, tonight we're going to talk about the Equine Athlete and the top 10 things that I would look at first. There's a lot of things that we can do in order to improve our horse's performance. And I'm going to share with you probably the first 10 things that I would look at when I want to improve my horse's performance. Or, hey Hillary, thanks for joining. When I want to improve his performance or health and well-being and all those kind of things. So we'll just give it another minute or so. Hope everyone's been having a great week with their horses. As I said, we're absolutely flat out at the moment. We did a really cool colt start yesterday and today, so that's what I've basically stepped off the colt a couple of hours ago, and she's doing really well, so I'm excited about that. She's it's always really nice to have one that this one is a restart, so it's always really nice to get them nice and settled and confident and happy about what's going on in a start. So I'm still on a bit of a high from that. It always makes me feel really good to be able to take a horse through that process and keep them nice and confident and willing throughout the process. So that's really great. Okay, the Equine Athlete, taking him to the next level. Top 10 things that I'm going to look at. So the first one is pretty much the first thing that we look at for all of my Monday Night Lives, I think. But this is the other end of that scale. The first one is nutrition. We want, hey Eden, there's my 10 days. They'll all be huddling around Eden's phone because she's the only one that's got reception on her phone. So everyone will be trying to look at the small screen, and I'm super jealous because they're all sitting around the campfire and I'm sitting in my office, which is really cold because I don't have the heater on. So anyway, the first thing is nutrition. Firstly, we're looking at the energy requirements of our horses. So as we start to do more challenging things with our horses, maybe more challenging maneuvers, maybe riding them for longer, maybe having higher expectations and things like that, we need to start re-evaluating our horse's nutrition. I know that, Eden's saying it's raining. I can't hear the rain on the roof. It'll settle the dust. That's a good thing. Hopefully it won't get too heavy. Having a Tanja marathon. Welcome, Kate. Good to hear. I hope you're enjoying it. When we start looking at energy in and out with our horses, I know that I personally will feed the same feed for maybe a couple of years, especially if I'm really happy with it. If my horses seem to like the feed and the nutrition seems to be really good, I'm definitely going to leave them on that food. But what we need to consider is whether they need something added to that food, maybe more protein, maybe more fat, maybe more fiber, depending on their requirements for the work that we're currently doing with them. So energy in versus energy out. and that sort of thing. The other thing that we need to think about when it comes to nutrition of our horses is the timing of the feeds. So what I currently do with my horses that are in work is, as soon as I'm finished working with them, providing that the work wasn't strenuous, I will wait for their heart rate and things like that to come down. Obviously, if I step off a horse and he's still sort of like breathing pretty heavily and his heart rate's up, I'm not going to give him a whacking great feed. But what I want to do quite soon after I've finished working them or riding them is give them a feed. It doesn't have to be a big one, but what I like to get back in there is some electrolytes, some minerals, and what I like to feed personally, I feed oats. So I like to give my horses a little bit of oats and a smaller portion of their regular hard feed, because that's when their muscles are going to start rebuilding and things like that, so they can draw on that nutrition immediately. So we need to start looking at the timing of our feeds and when we're actually going to give them a feed. So nutrition is number one always on the list. Number two is cross training. So we're talking about cross training in regards to their mental and physical well-being. So cross training mentally is going to give them a variation in their workload, and it helps you to disguise repetition. So you know, if you're currently training for a competition that requires you know, a lot of circles or something like that, then what you can start to do is introduce a different discipline that may still have circles in it, and will help make sense of circles to your horse, and will stop you from just doing endless circles in the paddock or something like that. So I definitely want to look at the mental aspect of cross training, because it offers my horse something different to do and it keeps him interested in our rides. But if I can also pair that with cross training that's going to benefit my training for what I'm actually trying to train for. Hey Shirley, how you going? If I can do something like that that's going to complement my training, all the better. So I need to look at what the requirements are of what I'm trying to train for, and then I can start to seek other disciplines that might have aspects of those things within them as well, and then I can go ahead and start cross training with my horse. So that would be number two. Number three is hacking out. So this is mental cross training, but there isn't pressure in the hack outs in regards to, hey Donna, welcome. There isn't pressure in the hacking out. Hacking out is really a time for my horse to just, you know, hit the trail or hit the beach and, you know, really move forward on a nice freestyle rein and just sort of go without the constant interference of a rider. Often when we're training, we'll be out there and we'll be trying to improve the shape of the circle, or improve the lateral band, or improve the collection, or improve this or improve that. So it's a pretty constant dialogue to our horse. So rides can very quickly, when we're training for a particular thing, become very very busy, I guess you'd want to call it. So, you know, you think about pulling your horse out of the paddock and putting the saddle on, and then the minute you sit your bum in the seat, you're going to be, you know, talking to him via cues, obviously, for pretty much the whole ride, because you're trying to fix this and fix that and fix this. And so what we want to do is on a very regular basis, we want to hit the trail or hit the beach and just go a little bit quiet for a little while, so the horse gets to just, you know, hack out, move his feet, go forward, and without that constant interference and correction, if you like, from the rider. So I personally like to go on trails, and when we've got the time, we'll chuck them in the trailer and take them down to the beach as well. So they're my two sort of favourite things in regards to taking my horse for a good long hack out is long straight lines on the beach or through the forest or something like that. Number four is my horse's feet. So this should really be a consideration very, very early on in the piece, but it definitely needs to be on the list when it comes to, you know, maybe we've started our horse under saddle, or it might be a young horse, or maybe we haven't really done much with it. No matter what we do with our horse, clearly we need to have good hoof care. But when they start to become a performance horse or an athlete, we might need to revisit the way that we're caring for our horse's feet. So whether they're shod, whether they're unshod. But particularly, I'm really going to start paying a lot of attention. And as I said, you should be paying attention to this early on in the piece, but I'm going to talk about it anyway. I really need to be paying attention to the balance of my horse's feet and the shape of his feet, the way that they're being cared for and trimmed, in order to promote the greatest possible movement that my horse can do. Because obviously if he's being filed unevenly or shod unevenly or anything like that, or there's any kind of interference with his feet, his entire body is resting on those feet. So, a little bit high here or a little bit high there is going to alter his gait and put, especially if we're doing a lot of training and things like that with our horses, it's going to put a lot of strain on, that is just going to travel up the leg and into the body. So think about yourself if I came along and put, even a little 1 millimeter extra on one of your shoes, eventually that's going to cause you pain, perhaps all the way up in your hip or your knee, or even in your shoulder if you're going to start carrying your body differently because you're out of balance. So the hooves are definitely something that we need to look at and make sure they're being done properly and done according to the requirements of what we're doing in terms of competition. I've heard that the white line under the coronet band means a lack of calcium. I'm probably not going to subscribe to that. The changes in the hoof are definitely going to indicate changes in nutrition. But I see lines and things like that coming down in my horse's feet all the time, and that could be if I've moved paddocks and they've changed pasture, if I've changed the feed, if I've added minerals, if I've done this, if I've done that, if there's been a significant event. Trauma will certainly reveal itself in the growth of the hoof. So I'm probably not going to say that. Definitely if there's a white line under the coronet band, there's a lack of calcium. Perhaps it's an indicator, but it also could be a reflection of something else, or it could be the horse's natural foot. So I wouldn't, it's worth considering, but it's not necessarily a 100% black and white statement that we could make. Number 5 is electrolyte and mineral balancing. So as we start to work our horses more and cause them to sweat probably a little bit more and use their body in ways that they typically wouldn't do when they're just walking around the paddock, or you're welcome, Donna, or maybe out in the paddock or the field. We need to start considering that as they're losing those salts and things like that out of their body, that we need to look at replacing them. So definitely salt is a major factor. It should be given to horses that are just in the field, but as we start to working them, we might want to consider electrolytes and also adding other minerals and things like that to their feed. So the way that I like to manage my horses particularly is to get their blood tested. So I like to get their blood tested, I'm not going to say frequently, but probably once a year is going to give me a pretty good indicator of what's happening internally for my horses. So a blood test once a year can certainly reveal if they're lacking in anything, if there's any nutrition that I'm missing out on, if they're hey babe, how are you? If there's any nutrition or anything that they're missing out on, if all their organs are functioning properly and things like that, a blood test can really be a great indicator. And I think that once you're taking your horse to that next level of being an athlete, then having an accurate reading on their bloods is something that I would consider it a fairly vital piece of information, really. I mean, I took my cat to the vet the other day, and one of the first things that we did was run a set of bloods. I mean, bloods are going to reveal a lot to you, and if you're expecting your horse to be a part of a team and be an athlete, then a blood test is certainly going to give you some really quality information there. As we're talking about the care and well-being of our horses' teeth are a huge factor in how they're carrying themselves, so the teeth are obviously vital in regards to them nutritionally looking after themselves. So if they're not chewing their food properly, then they're probably not going to absorb everything that they possibly can from the food. Not only that, if they're not able to chew their food properly, it's probably causing them not only pain via lacerations on either side of the mouth if we've got sharp teeth or something like that, but definitely if the horses are having to chew in an unnatural fashion or use one side of their jaw more than the other, then we're going to start talking about potentially muscle tightness and jaw tightness and things like that, which again is potentially going to work its way into other areas of the body. So as long as I can keep their teeth well maintained and looked after, not only are they going to be getting as much nutrition as they possibly can out of the food that I'm giving them, but they're also I'm going to be hopefully avoiding pain in the mouth and also pain transferred pain from having to chew in a certain way. And obviously we're talking as well, if you ride your horse in a bridle, you know, you want to make sure that those teeth are being cared for, because you do have a bit in there that's potentially going to be touching teeth if they're in the, you know, if there's sharp points and things like that, or if we haven't had teeth removed, or if they're capping. And, you know, this is all information that we need to know when it comes to the welfare of our horse. Worming, you know, again, it's on the list because it's one of those vital things. I would be putting an athlete horse, you know, maybe you've got horses out in the paddock that you might worm every 10 weeks or something like that, just as a maintenance worm. But as you start to have higher level requirements for your horses in terms of them being an athlete, then you probably want to put them on a more stringent worming schedule. Aftercare, pre-care, aftercare is something that I want to talk about. So when I talk about pre-care, I'm talking about making sure that you're warming your horses up properly before you enter any kind of high level training. And I don't mean level as in level of education, but repetitious kind of training. And collected work, you want to make sure that you've warmed up your horse properly and you've got his muscles nice and warm and him moving correctly before you run the risk of, you know, getting on a cold horse and asking him to perform a maneuver that he's not ready to perform. You could cause him to have injuries or tears in muscles and things like that. So definitely a scheduled warm-up, or I do a set warm-up. I've got a set warm-up that I do with every single one of my horses, or any horse that I get on, every time I get on it, so it's pretty easy. Hey Mandy, welcome. Hey Gwenda. So definitely having a warm-up process and a cool-down process for my horses as well. The last thing I want to do is dismount when my horse is at a peak state of training. I want to make sure I take the time to cool the horse down and make sure that heart rate comes down, the breathing comes down, and the muscles have started to cool before I just dismount, especially if I'm going to hose the horse as well. Body care, that brings me to body care. Hi Kathy. Kathy's asking what is my set warm-up. So my set warm-up is a walk, trot and canter on a loose rein. So no requirements in regards to bending or anything like that. So I just like to let the horse hack out a little bit and get his feet moving and things like that. And then I'll also ask my horses to go through my lateral work. So I'm going to do my lateral bend on both reins. I'm going to do my shoulder in on both reins. I'm going to do my quarters in on both reins. I'm going to do my leg yield on both reins. And that way we've had a conversation. The horse is stretched laterally through his body before I'm asking him for any collective work. So hopefully I've stretched him evenly bilaterally on both sides, and I've used his I've used all the way through his body, so from his nose, shoulders, rib cage and his hindquarters. So that's my set warm up before I ask my horses to do anything beyond those basic exercises, and that's also my cool down. That's how I cool my horses down as well, without the lope on a freestyle rein. If we've been doing a bit of collective work, I will go ahead and let them lope out or ask them to lope out on a freestyle rein just to get them stretching again. Then I'll bring it down to a trot and then a walk, and then I run through those laterals again. Body care is something else that we need to take into consideration for our horses. And when I say body care, I'm talking about body work, so massages and things like that, maybe chiropractic if you feel like it's required, and a series of stretching exercises. So, or using my ground exercises for stretching exercises, I suppose you'd call it. We had a look at that. We just did it today actually in the 10-day course. So a good set of exercises for getting our horses again warm through the body, but also on the days that we're not going to ride them, gives us some tools to just run through some stretches and things like that and keep those muscles being used when they're not required for being ridden. Hey Angie, how you doing? We're having a great time. Eden's going great. Sweetie's loving it. She was having a great day today. So finally she's in the classroom. So you'll be very proud when she gets home, I'm very sure. Number 9, I actually think we're up to probably number 10 because I slipped an extra one in there. But number 9 is recovery days. So really taking into consideration the way that I plan my workout. So being probably a little bit more consistent in regards to planning my working week with my horses. You know, what am I going to do? What am I going to do in each session in regards to the level of intensity of the training, and putting in recovery days in there. So, you know, you can't go out and ride your horse 5 days a week at 100% because eventually he's not going to be able to sustain that. So as any human athlete does, you know, they might train at a high level of intensity and then they're going to drop back that level of intensity and then they might take it up and they're going to do cross training and all of that sort of stuff. So anyone watching that's thinking about, you know, their horses and things like that, and that anyone that's watching that has experience in the human athlete field, you know, refer to that field. It's all the same stuff. You know what I mean? We look after our bodies. You know, we look after our nutrition. We do cross training. We make sure that we have downtime or hacking out time. You know, we make sure that we're wearing the correct footwear and the right gear. We make sure that we're replacing electrolytes. We make sure that we're doing body care. So we're stretching and we might be getting massages and we might be going to the chiropractor and all that sort of stuff. So it's pretty much exactly the same as a human athlete, the things that you're going to take into consideration for your horse as an athlete. So yeah, recovery days, you know, what days are you going to do an intensive workout and then what are you going to do the next day? The last thing that you want to do is do a high intensity workout and then put your horse in the paddock for 2 or 3 days, because you need to help him work through the lactic acid that's going to come from a high intensity workout. He's not going to work through that lactic acid himself. He's probably going, even if he's in a big paddock, which is a help, even if he's in a big paddock, he's probably not going to walk around a terrible amount. He's actually going to, you know, we all know what it's like when we've got lactic acid built up ourselves. The last thing we want to do is go for a walk or get those muscles moving and things like that. It's absolutely the last thing we want to do, but it's 100% what we should do. So if we go to the gym and have a pretty big workout, or maybe we haven't been to the gym for a while, and the next day we wake up and all of our muscles are sore and we've got lactic acid build up, the number one thing that we should do is go for a nice long walk and get the blood flow happening, get those muscles nice and warm so our body can do its job and rid the body of the lactic acid. So we have to take that into consideration for our horses as well. Our horses are going to build lactic acid, and we need to make sure that if we're going to plan a high intensity workout, that the day after that and the day after that are both training days that we are able to help the horse move through that lactic acid and keep his body moving. Number 10, which, like I said, I think I added an extra one in there, so it's probably number 11. But number 10 is consistency in your work days. So If you're wanting to take your horse to the next level and you're wanting for him to be an athlete, then what you're needing to do is make sure that you're consistent in your training. You can't ride your horse once a week and expect him to be at the top of his game, because he's going to start to lose condition within 2 days or 3 days of you doing a workout. Hey, Hannah. I'm looking forward to you being here tomorrow, even though I won't be, but we'll certainly catch up. I'm sure I'll be able to come and see you. So, you know, consistency in our work days means that if we really want to make a commitment to taking our horse to the next level, that we need to commit a set series of days to be working with our horses. Because, like I say, you know, you can, if I go to the gym once a week, there's not really going to be any results, because once a week is too few and far between. By the time my body starts to say, oh, we've done a workout, and you know, is this the new way? Already I've not put any more work into it, so I've started to lose condition, and then I go to the gym again, you know, in 7 days, and then my body comes up a little bit, and then it goes back down, and then it goes up, and then it goes down. So, you know, it's no point really at all. Other than for our own pleasure. Obviously, a lot of people are riding their horses once a week because that's all we can do, is get out there on a Sunday or on the weekend or something like that, and that's understandable. But in terms of creating an athlete out of our horses, it needs to be a lot more consistent than that. My fellow just had his first beach ride at Cabarita. Maybe, yeah, absolutely, Donna. So especially at the beach, because there's going to be deep sand and things like that at the beach. So I would be highly recommending, especially, it's normally day 2 that the lactic acid really sets in. So I would be highly recommending doing some work with him. Even if you don't ride him, go ahead and put him on the lunge and let him do some walking out and nice long trotting, and get those muscles warm again, and help him to flush through that lactic acid 100%. 10 days going awesome, Hannah. It's super fantastic. I can't wait to catch up with you either. Yeah, we're having a great time. It's really cool. So that is the 10 things that I would recommend in regards to taking your equine athlete to the next level. And as I said, there's more things that you would do after this. But certainly, you know, they're the first things that I'd be looking at in regards to my horse and taking him to the next level. Katie, how do you know if you're overworking your horse going up hills? That's probably a question that is unanswerable without further details. Basically, how often is he ridden, and how big are the hills, and how, you know, what gate are you in up the hills, and you know, what's the gradient of the hills, and this and that. So some of the indicators, if my horse is being overworked up a hill, might be that he stops or frequently stops. Some horses will stop anyway because it's hard work. But if my horse gets to the point going up a hill where he's really sucking in lots of oxygen, you know, big rapid breaths, increased heart rate, probably trembling in the muscles would be an indicator. You know, if he starts to feel unsteady in his feet, if that's where you're going with that question, I hope I'm on the right track in regards to that. Like in real time, if I'm going to question whether I'm working my horse too hard up a hill, they would be my indicators. If I get halfway up a hill and he sort of stops and he's a bit rickety on his feet, then I'm probably thinking, you know what, he's breathing really heavily and fast, and he sort of can't get that oxygen back in. Then I'm going to let him pause there, recatch his breath, and I'm going to go again. But as you build that level of fitness, he should be able to manage the hills. You know what I mean? Providing that you're doing it on a fairly consistent basis, and you're not just you know, hooning up and down the hills. Hillary's saying sweating. Yeah, I'd have to say excess sweating, and again, it would depend on the gradient of the hill and the climate and all that sort of stuff. I mean, we've got some pretty steep hills out here where we live, and our horses, you know, they sweat when they're going up them and all the rest of it, and I don't consider that we're overworking them. I would be the biggest indicator for me would be distressed rapid breathing and trembling. You know, when the horse stops, they'll generally be sort of Oh, you know, just like we do, exactly what a human does. You know, if you run for long enough, your legs get a little bit shaky underneath you. So, and that would be an indicator for me. But excess sweating, definitely. I mean, if it's coming off him in waves, then you're probably overworking him a little bit, unless he's a, you know, quilty endurance horse that is going to sweat because that's a natural process of his workload and he's in endurance fitness. So I hope that helped. So that is the top 10, 11 things for the Equine Athlete. Thank you so much for joining me. It's great to have you here. I really appreciate it. Looking forward to Eden saying I don't run. No, I don't run, Eden, but I know what happens when people run. I have experienced running before. I'm coming back to the fire now, so I'll talk to you when I get there. I really appreciate everyone joining me. I keep saying this every single week, but it is very, very true. You guys being here on the Monday nights is what keeps me coming back and doing more Monday nights. So again, please share it with your friends if you know anyone who's interested in the topic. If you've got a topic that you would like to see me talk about, go ahead and send me a private message. We're always looking for new topics. This Monday Night Live is a permanent thing. So, you know, there's 52 weeks in a year. There's 52 Mondays in a year. So go ahead and send me a private message if there's a topic that you'd like to see me cover, and I'll do my best to get it on the run sheet. We're just about to do another one. I think we've only got one more published in regards to Monday Night Live. I can't even remember what it is, unfortunately, and I can't look it up because it's on my phone, which is what I'm coming to you live from. So yeah, send me topics and I look forward to it. I look forward to receiving them. And Angie, that's Angie's Eden's mum, so she's being cheeky too. I'll deal with you on Saturday when you get here, Angie. Great to have you, Shirley. Thanks, Kathy. Thanks, Kylie. No worries. Watch the replay. And I will catch you all either in a minute at the fire or in my travels. I'm heading to the States this Sunday, so I'm really looking forward to seeing you out in the US and at the Cowboy Dressage World Finals. Have a great week.